Hello, this is The Thread. Imagine working only 4 days a week. Where do I sign up, right? Well, I actually traveled to Zora to find out how they've been doing it and spoke to Don McLeod and also to hand in my application for a job or two. Check it out. Don, so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
So your initial 4-day work week trial was part of a pilot project by researchers from York and Western University. How did Zora come to be involved in this study?
We actually requested help from them. We have two recent grads from the MPA program, so they still have good contacts at Western, and we reached out to them to help us evaluate how our 4-day work week or compressed work week trial was being undertaken.
And how was it received?
Very well received by staff. They're extremely happy with the 4-day work week. Council seems happy with it. We were able to extend our work hours by 12.5% at no cost to the taxpayers.
Oh, so how did it work?
So we previously worked 8:30 to 4:30. We extended our hours from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. with a half-hour lunch and one 15-minute break. So we eliminated one 15-minute break from staff so that we were able to finish at 5 o'clock. We do a Monday to Thursday and Tuesday to Friday shifts, so that we're open 5 days a week and every discipline is covered 5 days a week.
So what was some of the advantages to the staff for having a 4-day work week?
So those that had daycare, they were able to eliminate 1 day of childcare. For myself, I have an elderly father, so I'm able to schedule all his appointments on my days off. Just spending time away from the office seems to really have helped people's mental health at work.
When we talk about some of the benefits to the staff members, that's one thing. What were the benefits to the community?
So the community has our office hours open now an extra 12.5% a week. So we're able to go in at 8 a.m. and people can come in until 5 p.m. and there was no cost, as I said before.
It sounds great, because I'm like, when do I move to Zora? But I'm guessing there must have been some challenges. What were the challenges for the 4-day work week?
So some of the challenges that we encountered was just scheduling our internal meetings to make sure that you weren't scheduling tender closings or scheduling meetings on your days off, and just making sure the public knew that our office hours had changed. So we change our email signatures, we have our voicemail changed, and we publish it in our local newsletter, just so that people are aware.
Accessing childcare across the country is a complete nightmare. When I had my child, I was told that I should have signed up like 2 years before I thought about having a child. It's also very expensive. Now, if you move to a 4-day work week, 10 hours, I'm guessing that it must have been challenging for some people to get daycare for those hours.
It was. We actually had one staff member, our Director of Corporate Services. She has 2 small children, so she was not able to participate because her childcare provider was not flexible enough. So she's on the 5-day work week now, but she said once the kids are old enough, she will move to the 4-day work week.
Okay, so some employees have the option of working 5 days, 8 hours?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So we have a very flexible work schedule. Prior to the 4-day work week, we had flex hours, so people could start their times earlier and leave earlier for commuting and also for childcare. So we've always been very flexible with our work arrangements.
Why is that? Because I think we still live in a world where we live in a 24-hour, well, actually probably a 26-hour day, and the way the workday is structured is still very much 9 to 5. How were you so flexible in the approach of allowing your employees to have more flexibility?
We've always been big on employee satisfaction, and we knew that for the most part, our core services were covered 5 days a week. So we thought, if someone can leave or come in at 8 o'clock and leave at 3:30 or 4, it made them happier, and the township business was still being taken care of. So that's always been our core value, is to be flexible with our work arrangements.
You are a public servant, and I'm guessing there must be people who work for private companies in Zora who are kind of looking and saying, oh, I wish this was something that I could have access to. What do you think politicians should consider in the times that we're living in, and maybe after this pandemic, this might be a time to reimagine the way we work?
I think it's a great time to reflect, and that's what got us to this point, was looking at how we were working and what we could do differently to make our employees happier, and also to improve our retention and also, as well as our recruitment. That's one thing I think politicians will have to be really careful of over the next little while, and we're seeing it now, is trying to recruit smart people into municipal government. It's a challenge. Anything that we can do, any tools in our toolbox, will certainly make this a lot easier, and we found that this has really worked for us in being able to retain some of our younger, smarter employees.
Did productivity get better with this 4-day work week?
I would say it hasn't dropped. We've been able to maintain the number of staff reports going to council, our services provided. So we do monitor that, but it has made employees happier, and there seems to be a lightness around the office that wasn't there before. So I think that's maybe not productivity, but just employees' engagement satisfaction is far higher. So when you have that, people are taking less sick days. They're just more apt to come into work looking to do a better job.
We always talk about the elusive work-life balance. It's like a magical unicorn. Do you think that this is the missing piece for that?
It's maybe not the missing piece, but it certainly has helped bridge that gap. The satisfaction survey that Western did, that was one of the things that was highlighted, was that our employee satisfaction is extremely high. We did a pre-trial and post-trial, and we didn't see any noticeable drops. The one thing that we did note was that people thought they would spend more time with families having the extra day off.
Did they?
No, it's not the case, because kids are in school, your partner is working. I think it's given people some more alone time and just a chance to, like, doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, doing appointments with your parents or something of that nature. So I think it's given employees their own personal time.
Do you think that what you've done will be something that attracts people to come to your community?
Definitely. As I said, we've seen that with our employees that haven't left. Our employment page, after we announced it, we had, I think it was a 700% increase in people looking at our job ads that we had online. So we know there's great interest. Some of our employees have had calls from friends seeking employment with Zora, so it really put us on the map. I've done probably 35 to 40 media interviews now in the time frame that we've implemented it.
You must feel proud that your community was able to accomplish something that a lot of people have spoken about but haven't put into action.
Definitely. It's, when people hear the 4-day work week, first thing they think is, oh, you've got a day off, the place is closed, and that's not the case. People think it's hard to do. It's not. It takes just, good cooperation between management and staff. You have to do some planning, but it's not hard to implement. With the right supports in place, it can be done very easily.
Why is that relationship important to maintain? Because through the pandemic, we've been hearing something called the Great Resignation, where people are kind of saying, you know what, I'm fed up. This isn't working for me. My needs are not being met. I'm leaving. And even though for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such uncertain times. What are you doing? Make good choices. But a lot of people have been deciding that this is the time for themselves because they don't feel like they're being respected as workers. Why is that important, management and employees, important to nurture and to, I guess, respect in a way where it works for everybody?
That's what we tried to avoid at Zora, was the Great Resignation. We could see what was happening around us. So with our flexible policies before and the 4-day work week, I think it just helped the workers know that management cared about them and that we were doing everything we could to support them. It's gone a long way to bridging that gap between management and staff.
Because this seems to be like a conversation that we've kind of been avoiding for a very long time. We kind of put our head in the sand, like we don't want to talk about the fact that the world is changing rapidly. People's needs are changing very rapidly. What would you say to other companies that are maybe considering doing this but are nervous?
Be flexible, be open to carrying out business the way that it's not been done in the past. And it can work. It really, truly is not difficult to implement, but you have to have trust in your employees too, and you have to just make sure that everybody is able to get along in the workplace to cover off those days when they're not there. So it's just a great cooperation with all levels of staff, management, and your coworkers too.
Some people might say, it's great that it's worked in Zora, but your community is less than 10,000. But can you see the scale to include bigger cities and society as a whole?
I've had calls from larger cities wondering how we did it. We were non-union, so there's a bit of a challenge sometimes with unions and work hours. The places I've talked to, larger cities, that was one of the challenges that they identified from the outset, was to try and work around that. It's a give and take. So our employees gave up a 15-minute break in the afternoon to be able to leave at 5 o'clock. So it was easy to do. And any collective bargaining, there should be that option to do that as well. Our council's been so supportive. They allowed management to run with this, and they've supported the 4-day work week from the get-go. There was never any question about it being canceled. They didn't get complaints from the public, so they've embraced it fully, and they've been a wonderful support for me as well.
And I just wanted to touch on the balance. It seems as if there's so much happening. I think many moons ago, when we established this 9 to 5, families were structured very differently. You had that village to rely on. The 9 to 5, you'd go home. Now we have the internet. It feels as if you're always on. We now have legislation, the right to disconnect, so that your employer doesn't contact you after a certain hour. Why is this neat? Why should we consider the impacts of this busy life on employees?
Because we're so connected now, the public demands a response right away. Counselors may demand a response right away. So I respond on my days off, but I encourage our staff not to. Just by nature of my position, I think I'm expected to. But our other staff on their days off, it's their time, it's their day off. And that's their chance to recharge, because we are working longer days, so they do need that extra time off to recharge. So we encourage them to not respond to emails. It'll be there when you return to work, so just make sure you unplug.
That chat was part of The Thread, hosted by me. And if you want to see more videos, you can look here and here. Subscribe to our channel or follow us on Instagram at TVO The Thread. See you next time.